What's happening? What's happening? I think I need to say again, what's happening, blues people? I don't see my peoples. So we want to make sure y'all are with us today. What's happening? We started a little later than usual. There we go. I'm seeing y'all. What's happening with you? Let me know y'all here. Let me know y'all here. Okay. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Thank you. What?
Sorry.
What's happening, y'all? What's happening? We are live and we are direct and we are, as we used to say, in full effect. All right, cool. I see. I'm checking. I'm just checking. I'm checking. All right, groovy. Good evening, good people. Welcome to Jack Dappa Blues. Remember, it's Jack Dappa Blues Radio, and we are Blues People Radio Network. Peace and blessing, brother Ish. What happening with you, man? Tonight, we are continuing our conversation, No Place After Dark, Sundown Towns, the blues, and the boundaries that remain. Okay? In part one, we examine how sundown towns restricted Black indigenous movement, resistance, employment, property ownership, and safety. We discussed how Black labor, money, and music could be welcomed into a town while the people were denied the right to remain, build, own, and belong. We also challenged the romantic image of the blues musician freely traveling the American road. For blues people, the road was never always open. Musicians and families alike had to know where they could eat, sleep, purchase gasoline, perform, and safely remain after darkness arrived. Tonight, we're going to begin where we left off last week with the knowledge that made some of that movement possible. We begin with the discussion of the Negro Motorist Green Book, first published by Victor Hugo Green in 1936. The Green Book helped travelers, Black travelers, indigenous travelers, mahogany, what I call them, locate hotels, restaurants, service stations, boarding houses, and other businesses where they could expect to be welcomed. But the Green Book was more than a directory. It was a printed survival map. It gathered knowledge that had already been traveled through the families, the networks, the railroad, porters, business owners, churches, and community relationships. It made part of the People's Trail portable. Every listing represented a place where travelers of a melanated nation could find assistance. It also represented an economic network of businesses, property owners, workers, and community institutions. Tonight, we are following that network into Oklahoma. What's going on, Americana's grandson? We want to talk about Route 66 and its unequal promise of freedom. We will visit the story of the Black-owned Threatt Filling Station, Threatt Filling Station near Luther, where land, business, safety, and community came together. We will consider Oklahoma's historic all-Black towns, Greenwood and the destruction of Black wealth, and Rentiesville, I love Rentiesville, where Bless the Dead and the memory of DC and Selby Minner helped create a blues tradition that carried the community from dusk until dawn. In a sundown town, darkness could mean you had better be gone. In Rentiesville, dusk could mean come on in. The music is about to begin. Hey, bud, let me look at my Blues Tribe. What's happening, Blues Tribe? So I want to be clear about something. We're talking about sundown towns. One of the amazing things about Oklahoma, if you were with me last week, I told you my reverence for Oklahoma. Oklahoma had towns that were considered reverse sundown towns. Boley, Oklahoma being one of the most notable, meaning that if you were not melanated, if you were not mahogany, if you were not black or indigenous, you had to be gone by sundown. And they were not into anything other than being able to build and or fall on their own merit. Same thing we can discuss when we talk about what most people call Tulsa, but is actually why do I always Greenwood? Why do I always forget that? So welcome to the show. Let me know if we're clear, you can hear us well. Also, remember this is a conversation. What do I mean by conversation? It may appear to be a radio lecture, but we are talking to our people. This is the Blues Tribe, and we are synthesizing, if you will, what history has told us, what oral history has told us, what folkloristic documentation has told us, and we're putting it in a proper context. Okay? Bring that up, bud. Yes. Yes. It's time now?
Yes. You are listening to Jack Dappa Blues Radio on WBPR. That's right. We, the Blues People Radio Network. We preserve the blues people, one voice, one story, and one truth at a time. Visit jackdappabluesradio.tv. That's one word, jackdappabluesradio.tv to learn more, share the broadcast, and support the work.
Thank you, Mr. Pearley. Hey, Miss Janine, how are you doing this evening?
Hi, Miss Janine. Hi, good folk.
So we want to talk about well, I'm going to give the Green Book made knowledge portable. We're going to start from there and keep going, okay? Because this is important. And I also want y'all to understand something. Even though the Green Book made knowledge portable, you have to understand there is not just a color or racial implication, there's also a social and class implication. And there are people that were not in the class of folk who were able to travel or use or purchase a green book. However, there was another version that it wasn't called a green book that they were able to get their information from. I do, as usual, want to shout out the Southern Queen in Bowling Green, Kentucky, which is a Green Book stop where B.B. King, Ike and Tina, Jelly Roll Martin, who played in these areas and stayed there. I hope I didn't forget anybody, okay? And and don't forget that Porter Parish Granger grew up in that house till about 17 and went on to be a significant contributor to the blues people, blues composition, blues stage plays, and the blues narrative. So now in 1936, a Harlem postal worker by the name of Victor Hugo Green began publishing the Negro Motorist Green Book. It helped travelers identify hotels, restaurants, service stations, and other places they could expect welcome during the Jim Crow era. The Green Book did not invent Black travel knowledge, as you all know. This is something that's been going on since prior to the Trail of Tears. Okay? It made parts of that knowledge portable in print. That's the key, portable in print. Because before it was word of mouth, right? And remember that the blues musicians were the newspapers and the local preachers sometimes, meaning those who disseminate information. Okay? It joined the warnings of family members, porters, musicians, business owners, and experienced motorists. The guide also documented an economy. Now, this is very interesting, and this is one of the things I love about it when I say it. Uh, and those of you who were here last week, just bear with me because I believe we ended on this note, but I like to start where we end. It's called full circle. This is the well, don't forget. I like the idea of documenting an economy because this book not only gave you safe places to sleep, but it gave places of Black economy circulation. See, one of the things that destroys communities is the lack of financial circulation. Money goes in and then goes directly out. Where back in these days, the money circulated at least 10 times across the nation, right? Which is how communities stay strong. That was one of the and go back and watch my Greenwood episode when I spoke to folks who were discussing Greenwood and the Tulsa massacre and riots and how they rebuilt. And most people don't know that, okay? I like to share that. So every listing testified that Black travelers were customers and that Black-owned and welcoming businesses formed a national network, okay? So this should also give you hints on why this network had been disrupted. It is more of a financial resource thing than anything else. Everything else plays into it, if you understand what I'm saying. But we should not let the existence of a guide make segregation sound manageable or quaint. Needing a survival guide to travel through your own country is evidence of denied citizenship, even if this was your land before any of this even started, which is what my song, The Prayer, is about, right? A motherless child on my own land. You can find that on the African American Folklorists and Blues record. So the Green Book represents both oppression and agency simultaneously. The dangers that made it necessary and the knowledge publishing entrepreneurship and mutual care that made it possible. All right? And now you can check the Library of Congress and Smithsonian Green Book collections for any of this information and more if you're looking to find out. Also, please put it up. You can go to my Amazon storefront for any of the books or information we speak about this evening or any other evening. Okay? Mrs. Pearley is going to post that in the chat. Chat. Next one, bud. Station break, keep the work breathing. And I have to shout out Biloxi, Mississippi, and Just Blues. You know, we're gonna miss y'all this year, but we truly enjoyed hanging out with the Just Blues crew and all the blues folk that was there. Mississippi put on a performance. Happy birthday, Matt McDonald. He killed that stage when we were there. You know,
happening on the 31st, right?
Yes. Oh man, I make some good coffee. All right. So I don't know. Oh, because you're supposed to.
Really? Okay. So
I mean, I could read it, but I'll send it to you right now.
Yeah, the Jack Dappa Blues Heritage Preservation Foundation offers workshops and courses in blues history, Black folklore, oral history, ethical fieldwork, blues ecology, archival care, and Black narrative ownership. Underwriting and sponsorship opportunities are also available for our broadcast and public programs. Visit jackdappablues.tv or lamontjackpearley.com.
Thank you. All right. I'm just making sure. All right, check it now. How's that? Hey, Mrs. Pearley,
Yes.
say something, anything.
1 2 1 2.
How does she sound? All right. Listen, when it's live, you're doing things in real time. All right. So I want to tell y'all, remember, as we, what? Next slide. As you listen, as we engage, do not forget beyond the romance of the field course, because that is the foundation of how to do this work. Okay. And I got some interesting news coming up about that course and the other courses that we're going to be offering. All right. Right. And don't forget, August 8th is going to be an all-day telethon as we raise funds for the Porter Parish Granger Blues Festival that we produce in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And as we continue to talk, we will disseminate that information. So 3 chairs, 1 racial landscape. Go, man. Good sister E, what happening with you? How are you? Always a pleasure. Thank you for bluesing with us. So, again, last week, actually, the week before last and last week, I introduced what I call the 3 trails method. Okay. So now the 3 trails method is paper trail, people's trail, and sound trail. And just to give you a little context, these are from my works as an ethnomusicologist and a folklorist, applied ethnomusicologist and applied folklorist. I will put folklorist first, but with that work, I've developed this 3 trails method, okay, specifically for the blues tribe, but it is handy for anyone or community when you're dealing with sensitive topics as such, okay? So it's the paper trail, the people's trail, and the sound trail, okay? And it's especially useful for what we're discussing this evening, okay? The paper trail includes ordinances, census records, deeds, restrictive covenants, because remember, the blues people, the blues tribe, we were what I like to call ordained stewards of the planet until that stewardship was disrupted and the prison planet began. That's why restrictive covenants are important. Newspapers, arrest records, maps, business directories, and travel guides. Okay, that's the paper trail. The people's trail includes family warnings, musician stories, community reputations, safe houses, oral histories, and memories of where Black folk could stop, stay, perform, or purchase gasoline. Have you noticed how I continue to mention gasoline? Because, when you're driving cross country, you have to get gas, right? And so where do you think a lot of these things are happening? Right? Okay, no, I was being nosy, y'all. So now, mind you, I am making, just so you understand, I am making my 3 trails method applicable to tonight and last week's conversation. However, when I first introduced it, it had nothing to do with travel. It had to, travel as in the travel we're discussing now. It had to do, when I first introduced it, with the finding of your people, your landscape, where you come from, who you are, and things of this nature. I bring that up because I want you to see how it's applicable to everything that has to do with you and the people you represent, okay? Now, the sound trail includes blues songs, interviews, field recordings, performance histories, radio, and the sonic memory of trains, road, police, labor, departure, and homecoming. And I think of blues songs, man, what was that song? I was, when you think, a lot of songs, there's a lot of songs, right, that blatantly describe our folk belief, like Louisiana Blues when Muddy Waters talk about going to New Orleans to get a mojo to show women how to treat their men. But then when you think of Muddy Waters, when another song I think is "I Got My Mojo Woken," and is it Mojo Working or I'm a Man? But one of the songs I was just listening to it the other day. Actually, I was watching an old uh, video of I think it was the Newport Festival concert or one of the blues festivals that he did, and I was watching the performance as well as a plethora of his interviews. But I was listening to the lyrics, and I was like, wow, this entire song is drenched in ritual, symbol, and belief system. And I don't even think anyone knows, because it's not one of the blatant songs where they say certain things. There's one lyric where they break down at least seven times in the stanza, right? And I just thought that was more than just interesting. That is part of the sound trail that allows you to understand a belief system of what was going on in those days, but also what was going on in the families that are still happening today. I'll also point to interviews, right? So I've been blessed and honored to conduct a long list of field ethnographic interviews. And there's some that I use as examples over and over. One is with the great Terry Harmonica Bean, who talks about the wells in Mississippi, and he talks about how the blood in the land still talks to us. And this is blood that's over 100 years old. Talk with Brother Vincy Varnadu, who talks about Parchman Farm and the relationship, in the racial relationship of people in Mississippi. Sister Rhonda Lynn, who gives us not only a deeper historic look of Mississippi, she wakes people up to the idea that the Appalachia is in Mississippi as well, right? And I say all these things so I could give you an idea and a firsthand example of, hey, sister, what's happening, Zaneta? How field recordings, interviews, and these things can assist you in understanding our story, past, present, and future, okay? So no single trail tells the complete story, though. A town may have destroyed an old sound, an ordinance may have been repealed, a census can show absence without, what was that? Oh, without explaining how the absence was produced. Oral history can identify a boundary the official archive refused to name. And understand what I mean by official archive, okay? Because there is an official archive and then there's our archive, which leads me to my course, Black Junk Archives. You're going to want to take that course as well. I tell everyone Beyond the Romance of the Field should be your first course with us, but you will, and then from there, Blues People, Music and Folklore, and then follow up with Black Junk Archiving, okay? But there's an official archive, and then there's our archive, okay? Because our archive names these things. So when the three trails meet, the geography becomes harder to deny. is what I'm getting to, okay? Next slide. Okay. Now stay. How y'all feeling out there? When's the first time you ever heard somebody say, "How y'all feeling out there"? I remember the first time I heard it. What about you? You know, the first time I heard someone say that was DJ Run from Run DMC. They come out on stage, him and DMC and Jam Master Jay on the wheels, and we'll go, "How y'all feel out there?" DMC says something, and they all say something I can't repeat right now. And then they go, I believe, was it Rock Box or the King of Rock? I think it was Rock Box. Or no. They went into Sucker MC. So if y'all never heard the song Sucker MC, thank you, Miss Janine. Always appreciate you, Miss Janine. Frosty little person. Sucker MC is one of Run DMC's most underrated songs that should get so much more attention than their what I call crossover hits, which is just as important because they help establish rap and hip hop as a commercial entity, right? But Sucker MC, somebody's wilding as if we're not broadcasting and they're just calling. Who gave you permission? All right. So anyway, please call me this week. Miss Janine, definitely call me this week.
You know what I want to know? Still have a green book in their vicinity.
Well, we'll get to that because there is a new green book. Okay, but we'll talk about all that. But Mrs. Pearley asked, who has one of the original green books? And I'm asking, who has one of the new ones? With that being said, Oklahoma held competing geographies. So, Miss Janine, please call me this week. And I definitely, I don't even know what the news is, but congratulations. Oh, all right. Now I see you. And listen, Ms. Zendaya, thank you for all the shares and encouragement. You heard? Thank you. Okay. Oklahoma gives us an extraordinary case study because it contains compelling geographies. And you got to wait, let me, you know, I get excited when I talk about Oklahoma. Rest in peace, Miss Selby. One geography restricted where Black people could travel, settle, own property, or remain. Another was created by Black people through towns, farm businesses, churches, schools, newspapers, nightclubs, and institutions. We must also remember that Oklahoma's Black history is connected to Indian territory, forced removal, Native nations, enslavement within the 5 tribes, emancipation, freedmen counties, communities, land, and later state segregation. This history requires care. Black indigenous histories, for the most part, is the same for those that are indigenous. Because remember, there are Africans that are American. There are Blacks that are European. And there are Blacks that are Native. And when I say Blacks, I'm just being descriptive, utilizing the terminologies of today. There are melanated indigenous people. And I've read this to you. You need to go check my segments of my little series, Blues Music is Black Indigenous History, where I read excerpts from books. Particularly right now, we're studying Revealing America's Dark-Skinned Past, okay? I also told you a little while ago about Boley, Oklahoma. And one of the things that they did when they were putting this together, and I also have, matter of fact, Mrs. Pearley, if you can, put my Boley, Oklahoma episode in the chat. It's on YouTube, okay? and you'll get the history of Boley. But one of the things that I found interesting was that Boley, Oklahoma, the black folk of Boley, Oklahoma, they aggressively, assertively were calling for other blacks throughout the nation and in the South to come there. No one else was. They didn't want they didn't want no one fiddling, messing around with what they were trying to do. Okay, there's I don't want to go off topic right now because I could drop some gems on y'all because there's some folks that still call me an African denier, even, and it's like we're not. No one is. How can I put this? Thank you for laughing, but the whole thing is no one is discrediting no one. No one is stealing no one's destiny and or history, but we got to put it in the proper context, and that's what we're doing here. Okay, that's what we're doing here. Just real quick, I have to revealing America's dark skin past volume 1. I just have to read this real quick for you, and this is in the Mound Builders chapter. When the Europeans first arrived to what is now southeastern United States, they encountered a Negroid often described as copper-colored culture of people that later became known as the Mound Builders. Mound builders is a general term referring to the indigenous inhabitants of North America who constructed various styles of earthen mounds for burial, residential, and ceremonial purposes. The Mississippian mound builders dated from 1000 CE to 1700 CE is the culture that the Europeans encountered. And this culture is considered to be probably the most advanced society that arose in North America. And I read that just so you can see that they encountered a Negroid culture of people, often described as copper colored. I just wanted to put that out there real quick because when we speak about Oklahoma, there are it's extremely layered. And I think that is an understatement, okay? I also want to say that if I'm not mistaken, there was 150 black towns in Oklahoma. I believe historical black towns. Listen to me, y'all. If I have the number incorrect, please don't be afraid to put it in the chat, okay? I believe it's 150 that was documented historical black communities. And the reason why this is important because what was found out was there was way more than that. The only communities that were documented was communities that had post offices. So if you had a post office, it was considered, I guess for the census, it was legitimate for documentation. But there were other communities and towns adjacent that were their own communities and towns that are historically, as you would say, black or Negroid or Negro or indigenous, right? That were not documented because they had to come into the town, the community of thus those with the post office. Does that make sense to y'all? Okay, so with that being said, this history requires care. Oklahoma, therefore, as I stated, complicates the simple map of North versus South because racial exclusion did not stop at a familiar regional line. Neither did black institution building. So, and I want y'all who are listening and watching to answer this question, please. Who controlled the land, the road, the town, and the right to remain? I don't know. I don't have an answer. Well, you know what? The sheriff would be one. I don't know if the sheriff. Well, the sheriff can control it because they're the gatekeeper, and they're employed by the people who actually the lobbyists who control, right? And we got to remember one of you. Go watch my Greenwood episode. Could you put that in there too, please? My Greenwood episode, Tulsa. What really happened in Tulsa? Put that up in there because I don't want to go too far off what we're discussing. So you could watch my Boley, Oklahoma episode, and you could watch my Greenwood, the Tulsa, Oklahoma episode when I speak to historians of Greenwood. Okay, next slide, bud.
What really happened in Tulsa?
Yes. Now, mind you, we got to understand the prison planet, okay? So I say things, so I work to wake, I don't want to say wake up everybody. You said no? Inform, okay. I work to inform folk and give you a piece, and then you could take it and go look it up and see how it's applicable to you and your people, okay? Because the prison planet is a deep system that has a lot of people at each other's necks that may not should be. You know what I'm saying? So, all black towns made belonging material. Now, some of the stuff I introduced in the last couple of segments. And after this segment, I'm going to have Mrs. Pearley give you guys some updates. And don't forget, you can still order magazines and an African-American folklorist calendar, okay? A minimum $50 donation gets you an African-American folklorist calendar. So now these are the African-American folklorists for the month of the year 2025, but it is a 2026 calendar. And even if you don't use it as a calendar, it is a collector's item. You see, these people on there are historic in their own rights. And you need to know who they are, okay? You give that clap it up for them.
You have new people to highlight.
That's right. Just so y'all, if you didn't hear what Mrs. Pearley said, now we're offering you new folk to celebrate for Black History Month. And with that being said, you can check out my article, Why Aren't Black Indigenous Folk Celebrated in Black History Month? Could you find that? You will find that'll be in African American folklore. Matter of fact, I'll look it up when you read the segment. Don't worry, okay? Wait, let me get through this one first, okay? So as I introduced to you all in the last couple of segments, Oklahoma became home to an extraordinary number of all Black towns and settlements. Among the best known are Boley, Langston, Rentiesville, Taft. Oh, and you know who talks about who's a historian of Taft? And also, I believe, if not a community member, has did a lot of stuff there. Blues man and scholar, Dr. Harold Aldridge, who I need to give him a call. He's an amazing gentleman. Clearview, Redbird, Tatum's, Tallahassee, and others documented by the Oklahoma Historical Society. Okay. These communities were not merely places Black people went because white towns rejected them. They were expressions of Black political and economic imagination. So here, in these places, belonging became material. It meant land, municipal government, schools, churches, newspapers, farms, shops, professional services, family property, and public life. I'm telling you, Oklahoma is the beep. Every Black-owned acre challenged a racial order that attempted to separate Black labor from Black authority. And mind you, the idea of the freedmen also tried to dismantle and separate who was who. Just so you know, if you don't know, the Civil War started in Oklahoma. And the farm in Rentiesville, DC Minor, and that's right. Because Dr. E's from there, DC Minor and Selby Minor, on the corner of the opening of their farm where the Oklahoma Blues Hall of Fame is and Dusk Till Dawn Blues Festival is, that's where the war started.
That's the map that you have, right?
That's the map that I have.
There's a map of the war.
Yeah, and I have the map. I'll show y'all later. I saw you, Dr. E, 1000%. Okay? Getting back to it. The history was not without hardship. Agricultural change, the Great Depression, transportation shifts, disinvestment, out-migration, and unequal access to capital affected these towns, but decline should not erase achievement. The all-Black town reminds us that our story is not only about where we were forbidden to go, it is also about where we claimed the right to stay. And you also have, it gets so deep. And usually when someone says it gets so deep, I cringe. I think of one of my favorite artists, Gil Scott-Heron. And he tells a story about sitting in class and his teacher's talking about European poet, Western civilization poets, and how they write this stuff and it's supposed to be so deep. And he's like, well, if you got to tell us it's so deep, it must not be that deep, right? So I forgive me for saying that, but there's so many layers to Oklahoma. We can't get into all of it right now as much as I would like to. Is really what I was trying to say. Next slide. So, we should. Wait, before we get to the slide, please read our next ad and piece of information.
Independent culture preservation requires a community. Support Jack Dappa Blues through Patreon or one of our other member-driven platforms. Your support sustains broadcasting, research, workshops, courses, oral history work, and the African American folklores. Visit jackdappablues.tv. I'll say it again. Visit jackdappabluesradio.tv for current options.
Right.
Share it. There's a lot of information on there. It's a beautiful ecosystem that has been created. With a lot of Black artists, entrepreneurs, folklorists alike, ethnomusicologists, you name it, they're all on there.
Yes. So I'm really looking for this article. I think I shared it a couple of weeks ago, but I'm gonna share it again because y'all need to know. Okay? And while I'm looking for it, I want y'all to talk to me and tell me what y'all are thinking, how y'all are feeling. What would you like to add? Is there anything I'm missing? Oh, wait, sorry. Go ahead. Ask that again.
How are all of y'all liking the show so far?
What's that? You're raising your hands? I just did. Thank you, bud. Go ahead, Ms. Pearley. They couldn't hear you. Drive turkey.
How's everyone liking the show so far? Like, share, ask questions. We love to have conversation here.
By the way, Dr. E, if I'm not mistaken, Dr. E was American Folklorist for the month of June. Let's give her a round of applause. Where's Sammy?
Over there.
All right. I almost found it, y'all. Oh man, remind me.
Oh, thank you.
Very groovy, brother Ish.
Thank you, guys.
What's going on, man? You know, I'm close to saying calling you on screen. Shout out to Miss Moon and Chief Warhorse. I was calling the article by the wrong name. That's why I couldn't find it. All right. All right, put that in there. All right, let's get back to it. You're welcome. Okay. So I think it's the Threatt Station or the Threatt, right? The Threatt Station turned land into refuge. Okay. So near Luther, and please, if you all know how to pronounce the name properly, let me know because I hate tearing up people's name. I hate when people mispronounce my name, spell it wrong, all that stuff. So forgive me, anyone related to these folk, anyone know how to say the proper pronunciation, please tell me, okay? Near Luther, Oklahoma, the Threatt family created a vital place along Route 66. Alan Threatt, or Threatt, built the filling station around 1915 on family land. The family farmed, quarried sandstone, and developed a roadside business that serviced locals and travelers, including Black folks navigating segregation. The station offered what many travelers could not take for granted: fuel, food, rest, welcome, and information. Nearby community activity included baseball and the County Line nightclub. This was not simply hospitality, it was land converted into protection and enterprise. Money spent there supported a Black family and maintained a site that helped other Black families move safely. The station's location is significant. Geography created danger, but geography could also be stewarded into refuge. When we preserve and conserve the Threatt Family Station, we preserve and conserve evidence that Black mobility depended upon Black ownership. We also preserve and conserve the history of a family that turned economic agency into community care. So I have a question for y'all, and I'm going to wait a couple of seconds. Did you put the article up?
No.
What are you doing? Yeah, I did.
I see it now. Okay.
What are you doing over there?
I was waiting for you to
So listen, y'all, I have a question. Who remembers why we are discussing this evening? Who remembers, or if you don't remember, why do you think we're discussing for the second week in a row? We want to tie it up this week. Why we're discussing what Sundown towns essentially. Does anyone know? Does anyone care to take a guess? Does anyone know, and does anyone care to take a guess? Why are we discussing this? Is it relevant today? And if it is, why? Yes, we are. You're absolutely, you're 1,000% right. That is what we're discussing. Right. Okay. Now let's start from Brother Ish. And I'm gonna tell you why. We're gonna start from what he said. A few weeks ago, or not a few weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, what did I want to say? Yeah, they're still around for that matter. But not last week, the week before, we did an episode. Okay, I want to give you the proper name of that episode because that will, when the story doesn't sit right. Put that in for me, please. It's to go into the live. When you go to the YouTube and you see live, it'll be when the story doesn't sit right. So for those of you who were not able to participate or join us when we did that episode, excuse me, not last week, the week before that, we did an episode when the story does not sit right. Okay? I know I keep repeating that because it is essential to what we're discussing. We did that episode. It was inspired by the news stories going around about Nolan Wells. Okay? Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, definitely correlation with the history preserved in the all black towns, but also with black movement, not just in the past, but live on the show, I looked up because I gave excerpts and examples from Dr. Joy DeGruy, right? As she spoke about different things, but she also spoke about lynchings and how there was a plethora of lynchings or suspected lynchings that were classified as suicides. Now, I want to be very clear, like I was in that episode. I am by no meaning disregarding the issue and topic of mental health that all of our communities are facing, and the unfortunate reality that all of our communities deal with suicide. So please understand, we're not. That's not what we're talking about. What we are talking about is the history of black and brown people, of black folk, uh, being, erased, if you will, and then the story that goes with what the result of what happened to this human being not matching. Okay. So as we did that episode, I got to thinking about sundown towns. And what's up?
I don't see it.
All right, I'll send it to you. Okay. I got to thinking about some, and when I say I got to thinking about it, I got to thinking about, because a lot of us have to maneuver in places because of what we do. And some people don't believe this is still happening. Some people found, I just said, some people know it's still happening. And I don't want to say they ignore it. I'm not sure how they deal with it, but it's very real. So we're not like ABC News. We're more of a cultural, traditional news syndication. So I thought it was important to look at the tradition and the story and the narrative and the history of sundown towns as it pertains to what we're seeing today. And in looking at this, we get to look at, on one side, black progress, but then we have to ask, how much progress is it if we can't progress under our God-given name on our God-given land? That's one. Two, we do see progress, but how much progress are we seeing if, in fact, something happens to someone and we're still trying to, we still know the story don't smell right? Does that make sense to y'all? Please let me know if I'm in the ballpark here. Let me know if that makes sense. But go to the next slide. But I want to hear from y'all. Are y'all following me? Does this make sense? Or as Dwayne Johnson used to say, do you smell what the Rock is cooking? I remember one time I wrote that in a post and I didn't realize I spelled it wrong. And my man Big Rich, he rewrote it with exclamations, and I was like, I think I should erase this. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Why it's essential to have this conversation and to look at the history, trajectory, and culture of the restriction of movements of a particular people, particularly when we're moving on our own land. So I'm going to keep going while I'm waiting for y'all to respond and give me some feedback. And not only give me feedback, drop some information, because I see the folk that are rocking with us this evening. I know y'all are very in the know and deeply entrenched in communal work. And I applaud that and I appreciate y'all. All right. Route 66 became a national symbol of adventure, reinvention, and the open road. Songs and advertisements invited Americans to get their kick on the highways. So I want you to understand there's a connection between soul music, what we think is traditional songs, and actual commercial pushing of ideas and businesses. And I want y'all to understand, because a lot of people talk about how real blues people were illiterate and stuff like this, but they were great business people. They knew how to market. They knew the market, right? When they went to different geographical locations, what are you doing? Oh my goodness. That's right. Get your kicks on Route 66. Yeah, that's right. So these blues musicians who folk was saying is illiterate understood geographical markets. So they weren't that illiterate, right? Let's see. A sidebar question. I read the James W. Lowen Sundown Towns years ago. Is that an accurate reference resource? Also, the Route 66 convos. Great. And we'll just start Route 66. I would say any 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 writing of Sundown Towns, I wouldn't say necessarily accurate, but I would definitely say, if nothing else, is a great resource, right? Because it doesn't, whoever, if it's black, white, yellow, we definitely have to. Hey, young Don, how you doing, brother? We definitely have to keep all resources on deck, because that's how we cross reference, right? Okay. Well, watch. Ah, okay. All right. You're very welcome. And I'll get a little deeper into that in a second. All right. So now I brought that up for a reason, and I brought up the fact that blues men and blues women were master marketers because essentially Highway and Route 66 became a national symbol. It was a big commercial that kind of utilized ours and other cultural groups traditional expressions. All right. But the Smithsonian's Green Book exhibition notes that roughly half of the countries or counties, excuse me, half of the counties along Route 66 were sundown counties or communities. Let me repeat that so I can make sure y'all understand why I'm saying what I'm saying and why I'm bringing this up. When America started pushing these highways and these traveling and the like, Route 66 became a national symbol. Movies, songs, commercials. Like my man just said, get your kicks on Route 66, right? There's blues songs about it, the whole thing. But the Smithsonian's Green Book exhibition notes that roughly half of the counties along Route 66 were sundown communities or counties. Imagine that. The mythology of the open road depended upon whose mobility we imagine. Oh, there my sister, Miss Moon. What's happening? There you go.
Hey, Miss Moon.
So for black travelers, a famous highway could become a chain of calculated distances. How much fuel remains? Where is the next welcoming station? Will the children be able to use a restroom? Can we reach the next safe town before dark? This does not mean folk lack joy on the road. Families travel, vacations, migrate, Oseo, visited loved ones, and created memories. My peoples travel back and forth all the time.
And I was going to say they were well informed too. Knew when the sun was coming.
Oh yeah,
down,
yeah.
Coming up, everything.
Hell yeah.
Just talking about that when we travel, we need to have maps with us because everyone now is relying on GPS, right? We need to teach our people how to read maps still.
We have to teach our people how to read maps.
A handheld map.
We have to, like Mr. Walto, be able to look up and tell which way you're going without the map. But we do need to learn maps again. I happen to know maps as a truck driver at one time. Right? Yes. But what y'all need to understand, since we're having this conversation, there are still sundown towns today. And when you drive in certain places, there's no internet. So if you're thinking that you can GPS your way out of places, you're sadly mistaken.
Look at the map and know your route ahead of time so you can just be familiar just in case.
Yeah, and not even just sundown towns. Just, I don't know how many of you watch horror movies like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Leatherface, or I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, and all these different things are based on people driving down, not knowing where the hell they're going. So I just need you. So please understand that the Black travel story restores the full meaning of the road. The full meaning of the road, not just one side of it. Possibly shaped by danger and freedom made more real through community knowledge. Community knowledge. Next slide, but do we have anything to update the folks with?
Just remind them about the telethon again.
Right. What you said? Go ahead. Remind them. Take your opportunity.
Well, it's not. But just to remind you that August 8th, we are having an all-day telethon.
Can y'all hear Mrs. Pearley? Go ahead.
Tell me all the time I have a big mouth. You should be able to hear me. All-day telethon. If you want to volunteer to perform during that day, we still have openings. If you would like to volunteer online and share the live, you could do that as well. Donations are always welcome. We are raising funds for the second annual Porter Parish Granger Festival in Bowling Green, Kentucky. We had a great festival, a 3-day event last year, and we're raising funds this year. And my husband, he knows off the top of the head all the wonderful things that Porter Parish Granger has done. So you could tell him about that. He'll also tell you again about the courses that he have available and how you could continue to support Jack Dappa Blues Heritage Preservation Foundation and the African American Folklorists. So tell them who Porter Parish is.
So Porter Parish Granger comes out of the Southern Queen, which is a Green Book stop, a boarding home, a educational location, an essential foundation to Black Bowling Green located in Shake Rag. Porter Parish Granger comes from this place, right? And 1000%. And he lived there, he grew up there, and he goes on to be an essential contributor to blues as we know it. He has a plethora, a body of compositions, of work. He worked with Mamie Smith. He worked with Bessie Smith. He worked with Fats Waller. He was a musical director for a Zora Neale Hurston stage play that was put on in Chicago. And he had his own publishing company in New York City at a time when it was not easy to do such a thing. We honor him as he was part of an essential part of the blues that is not practiced as much today. Piano blues. You know, I know a few piano blues musicians, but there's not many. I know, what is his name, Bud? The guy that we saw, I always forget his name. He has the name Luther Allison. This young man, we watched him on a piano go through multiple Black traditional musics in one set. Not when I say set, not the whole set, just one song, I should say. Piano was an essential. I had the opportunity to talk to David Evans yesterday about the significance of piano and the blues at one point in time, and I really want to push the agenda of how piano fits into the blues.
Our daughter plays some piano.
Well, she doesn't play some piano. She plays piano, right? S. Dot. Yes, our little lady is a piano player. She plays piano blues, big time, and piano guitar. Wait, no, blues guitar, punk rock guitar. She's played the guitar. She played, but the piano is an essential part of blues in Black traditional music and music as a whole. So we want to help push the agenda of getting that more relevant into blues as we celebrate Porter Parish Granger in this upcoming festival. And on August 8th, we will be having an all-day telethon. And just in case you didn't know, before there was a Juneteenth, before people celebrated or even knew about it, there was an August 8th, which is the celebration of emancipation by the people. The people of Tennessee and Kentucky and on that border, particularly in Paducah and places like that, Russellville and places like that, they created it. It wasn't given to them by the colonizer. August 8th was created by the people back in the 1800s, and is still celebrated today. And on that day, we will be raising funds for the Porter Parish Granger Blues Festival while celebrating both. Okay, what, you hear this? Oh. All right. So now getting back to the lab in Rentiesville, Rentiesville answered Sundown with Dusk Till Dawn. And if you all know anything about Oklahoma blues, you know Rentiesville, and you know Oklahoma Blues Hall of Fame, you know DC Minner, and you know Selby Minner, bless the dead. They did something remarkable. Okay? They did something very remarkable. And I had the pleasure not only going and witnessing this, I had the pleasure of, I did not have the pleasure of meeting Mr. DC, but I had the pleasure of meeting Selby, his wife, and listening to the stories and getting the history and working with the Oklahoma Research Library and Patrick and Sarah and you know, doing some real ethnographic work. You know what I'm saying?
Taking our courses will help you and teach you how to do the ethnographic work as well.
Well, yeah, it'll give you the tools, and it'll also give you the awareness of the sensitivity of the work, how to approach the work, because you're dealing with human beings and you're dealing with human memory. It doesn't matter what the material is; it's still based on someone, because tradition, music, culture travels through people. Now, with that being said, there is another nighttime tradition in Oklahoma, which is what we've been talking about. Rentiesville is one of the state's historic all-black towns and the birthplace of blues guitarist D.C. Minner. His grandmother operated a grocery, juke joint, speakeasy, and after-hours blues space on their family land. Okay? Understand what I'm saying? Because this, we're talking about when in the 40s and 50s and stuff, okay? DC grew up hearing traveling musicians there. There's a, oh man, I gotta find my homie because he grew up in after decades on the road, DC and his wife Selby, his musical partner, returned to Rentiesville. They opened the Down Home Blues Club and established the Dusk Till Dawn Blues Festival. Think about that name. In a sundown town, darkness meant you better be gone. In Rentiesville, dusk meant come on in. The music is about to begin. That same darkness carried a different meaning because black folk controlled their land, their institution, the gathering, and the story. Night became not a deadline for disappearance, but a time of performance, fellowship, teaching, and cultural continuity and community. Excuse me. And this is where my blues ecology comes in, because it's place, sound, ownership, memory, and relationship breathing together. I'll also say this. When I was at the Dusk Till Dawn Blues Festival, having a chance to go around interviewing folk on spot, on scene, not as an investigative reporter, not as a journalist, but as a folklorist and ethnomusicologist. The thing that we're talking about and teaching, I do, okay? And it was why we were able to build this program beyond the romance of the field. And my family's out there with me a lot of the times as well. But the point I'm making is, what I was told and what I saw was how this space in Rentiesville becomes the mecca of community, where people from all over the United States drive to Oklahoma for fellowship. Where a place where, so I was, one of the things that was told to me was when they were having their after hours blues spot, between a certain time, the white patrons come and then leave, and then from another time, the black patrons come and leave. It got to the point where they all were just coming at the same time. Got to the point when they built this festival, people were not just coming to participate in the music, but they felt like they were coming to an annual family reunion that transcended color, gender, all of these, as Bob Marley would say, isms. You know, I met a gentleman there that he and his daughter was driving and they broke down on the way there. He said he was damn near in tears, if he wasn't in tears, for a whole day, because he was just calling people to let them know they're okay, they're on their way, they broke down, but they were coming. He said about 30 people that was there were calling him, trying to figure out how to either send money or come pick him up, him and his daughter up. So that's the kind of people that was there. And I saw it for myself, you know? So, I mean, it's there. It happens. Next slide. Now we talk about Greenwood, baby. Who knows the story of Greenwood? You know what Greenwood is? That's Tulsa. Okay? Greenwood is in Tulsa, and it demonstrates what could happen when Black people build a thriving community within a hostile racial environment. Now, I really want y'all to go watch the episode Mrs. Pearley put in the chat called, what was it called? The Real Story of Tulsa? Yeah. Because I'm not going to be able to give you the story right now.
When the story doesn't sit right?
No, before that, the Tulsa one, I actually put in there. I'm not going to be able to give you this story right now because we just hitting some point.
Yeah, what really happened in Tulsa. If they look up in the chat, they'll see the link there.
All right, just drop it again. What really happened in Tulsa? I want y'all to look at this because I can't go into that. So go through the chat. What really happened in Tulsa? Boley, Oklahoma, when the story doesn't sit right, the copper color races, which is the article I wrote. Go through there and check the stuff out, y'all, all right?
Like, share, and subscribe, please.
Yes. All right, because and I'm telling you to do that because I'm giving snippets, and I want to get through this before we end the broadcast, because some of these things are not only so relevant, they excite me so much, I could talk about it for hours. So, and I want to make sure, because I'm zipping through it, I need you to understand the context and what really happened in these places, okay? So the neighborhood contained homes, shops, professional offices, hotels, theaters, newspapers, churches, and community institutions. These were not merely symbols of success. They were assets, jobs, services, networks, and inheritances. And you got to remember, there's a woman there, if I'm not mistaken, if my memory serves me correctly, she was the first movie theater chain owner. Okay? This comes out of Greenwood. So a lot of times people talk about Tulsa and it got bombed and that was the end of it. No, that was not the end of it. They they came back with full force. The Tulsa that we're taught about that ended after this so-called riot really didn't end until the late 50s, early 60s with urban renewal. And the highways, Route 60s, and the highways, okay? Anyway, In 1921, alleged white residents and law enforcement coordinated, and I say alleged because it's a deeper story, okay? In 1921, white residents and law enforcement coordinated an attack that killed Black people and destroyed property across Greenwood. A 2025 Justice Department review described it as a coordinated military-style attack rather than an uncontrolled mob violence. And it's even more serious than that. Go back and watch the episode. They explain it in detail in what really happened in Tulsa, okay? The economic loss did not end when the fires went out, okay? Destroyed houses could not appreciate in value or be inherited. A ruined business could not expand, employ another generation, or finance another institution. Unpaid or contested claims, displacement, and rebuilding barriers extended the jury and injury. Racial violence and economic violence are not and were not separate. The attack targeted Black life and the material foundation of Black autonomy. But just understand the attack of 1921, coordinated as it was, did not destroy those people. Just like other places of melanation and mahoganyism, it was several years, just like in Bowling Green with urban renewal in Jonesville. So this is why our economic questions are essential, which is who benefits when Black ownership is destroyed, restricted, devalued, or prevented from growing? Who benefits? That's the question. Next slide. Remember, we're going to get through this. We almost finished. Remember, take beyond the romance of the field, okay? So the plantation complex moved with the people. The story of sundown towns belongs within a larger history of the plantation complex. Under slavery, under imprisonment, under exploited land labor, movement was regulated through law, patrols, passes, punishment, and the legal treatment of indigenous peoples as property. Emancipation ended legal slavery, but racial capitalism developed new methods of controlling land, labor, residence, debt leasing, policing, and mobility. And this goes back to my 3 trails. When I interviewed Mr. Tim from the Hill Country, he explains that exploited labor practices on plantations in Mississippi went on well into the mid-1970s. Let's be clear, okay? The relationships also traveled. They appeared in Black codes, convict leasing, segregated labor markets, company towns, racial zoning, restrictive covenants, redlining, municipal boundaries, and entertainment systems that profiled from Black culture, profiled and profited from Black culture, profiled and profited from Black culture, profiled and profited from Black culture. Thank you. Someone bring me tissue.
It's okay. Keep going.
All right. Why did I say that 10 times? Huh? It's all right. Why did I say that 10 times? Profiled and profited by Black culture. Because what do you think Black culture is? What do you think indigenous culture is? It's the new cotton. The question is that new? We are the cotton. Let's keep it moving. This does not mean every later institution is identical to the plantation. I will say, and I've been saying it for several weeks, I think the mining camps and the plantations, if they're not twins, they're brothers and sisters, or brothers, essentially, okay? But it means we should follow recurring relationships. Who owns, who works, who moves freely, who is watched, who absorbs the risk, who receives the profit, and understand, it's not always about color. Remember what I told you all before, and that's why I suggest everyone get the Webster Dictionary of 1828, because a lot of these words and categories morph, but their original meaning is still in effect. The blues gives us a way to hear those relationships because the music carries memories of labor, land, travel, law, loss, pleasure, resistance, and survival. This is real. Don't make me pull my guitar out right now.
Oh gosh.
Next slide. You guys, next slide, bub?
Yeah, when the sign disappears.
Okay. When the sign disappears. So what happens when the old signs come down? Sometimes the boundary weakens through law, organizing, demographic change, and courageous local action. Sometimes the boundary changes form. We can test its present condition by looking at housing access, property appraisal, lending, zoning, policing, municipal fines, school boundaries, public services, environmental burdens, business ownership, and who is displaced when an area becomes valuable. See, we should not casually label every inequitable town a sundown town. We should document the specific mechanism and its evidence. Do y'all understand what that means? Now I'm gonna move a little quickly through this because we should also recognize when different mechanisms repeatedly produce exclusion and not act like it's not happening. The modern boundaries may not announce itself at the city limit. It may appear in a traffic stop, a rental denial, a loan decision, an appraisal, a zoning hearing, the absence of public transit, or a cultural district that celebrates Black music while pricing Black residents and institutions out. Or blatantly stop you from voting. The sign may be gone, but the boundaries must still be tested. Next slide. Blues ecology. Here's the racial landscape. Yes? You laugh, I'm dead serious. I know. And I did that because blues ecology is something I poured a lot of energy in developing and still developing. Okay? Factamundo. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, I spent a lot of time developing blues ecology, and I'm still developing it or tightening it because everything is a work in progress. But blues ecology asks us to understand the blues within the total environment that produced and carried it. That environment includes soil, water, weather, crops, animals, labor, roads, railways, town limits, property line, police jurisdictions, juke joints, churches, homes, and the people who moved among them. Right? A road is not only pavement, it can be a route to work. It could be migration, performance, escape, danger, reunion, or economic exchange. Sunset is not only a natural event. And remember what I spoke about during the Prison Planet, what is natural and what is neutral and what is not, okay? Within a racialized landscape, it could become a deadline enforced by human power. Prison Planet and the blues ecology go hand in hand, baby. Blues people responded by reading the environment. They listened for warnings, remembered safe locations, built relationships, created sounds, and transformed difficult experiences into cultural knowledge. What I will say is, Mrs. Pearley, put the link to the blues ecology podcast series in there and put the Prison Planet series in the chat so that you can catch them up. Okay? Blues ecology therefore allows us, okay, to hear a sundown town not as an isolated oddity, but as part of a broader system connecting place, power, economy, and memory. I'd also go as far as saying go back and watch Lovecraft Country. All this stuff is in it. Okay, next slide. The sound trail remembers movement. Oh, and by the way, you don't just have to look at a movie. Tap into Miss Mary Hurt Francis and her continued struggle of maintaining not just her grandfather's legacy, but the land, the cemetery, the home, okay, which is in Avalon, Mississippi. I may put it up for y'all, all right? So the Blues Archive is full of movement if you listen. Trains leaving stations, highways stretching away, rambling, running, being driven out, going north, returning south, looking for work, avoiding jail, and trying to get home. And not to mention, if you listen to Charlie Patton and Robert Johnson, they both talk about overseas, going to Paris and different places, right? We should not claim that every traveling song is secretly about a sundown town. Fact, that's not what I'm saying. Songs do not function as legal affidavits unless their context supports that. Some of them do. Okay, songs where like Furry Lewis talking to the judge when he ran up, he get run through the system, right? But they do document the emotional and social conditions of mobility. I always talk about Down the Dirt Road Blues by Charlie Patton because he's talking about leaving the South, going to a reservation. Okay? They tell us that departure could mean freedom and loss. A train could carry opportunity and separation. Night could provide cover, danger, work, pleasure, or loneliness. Okay? The sound trail helps us ask new questions of familiar lyrics. And this is what I'm trying to get you all to understand. Because in some cases, yeah, it's music, it's songs. And you can just sit there and break down the aesthetic of musicianship and musicking, which is nothing wrong with that. The music of the time, the notes that they're using, how they're playing it, why is he plucking on that rhythm, on that note, on that chord, on the 4 and the 2 rather than the 1 and the 3, however you want to talk about it, right? Why, when it's supposed to be ADE, he's really doing AGA or whatever. You know, all these different things you could talk about, and it's great. Musicians who talk about that, I applaud you, particularly if you're talking about it where you're preserving and conserving the musicality of our traditional music from then to now. What I'm talking about is the context and meaning for the people, what's being expressed, whether it's in that note or in that stanza. Because now we need to understand, what are they talking about? Not just what are they singing? What are they talking about? Why are they talking about this? Why did John Wesley Work say the people of the cloth are forward thinking and the people of the blues are in a constant state of delusion and depression? Why did this black man say this? This educated black man say this? There's a reason. You see what I'm saying? So yes, we can discuss musicality, technicality, and all of that, but we need to understand and discuss context, traditional, cultural, and timing context, right? I say timing context because what did it mean at that time when he was saying it? Does it still mean that today? All right? Who is able to stop? Who must keep moving? Who is waiting at home? What authority is chasing the singer? We always talk about Robert Johnson. Hell, I'm on my trail with that one. And there's so many more, but that's a more notable one that most people grab immediately, right? What labor opportunities lies at the destination? That's almost how many blues songs we could talk about? What has been left behind? There's many blues songs talk about leaving certain things behind. Okay? The blues does not give us a list of every sundown town. No, and that's not what we're asking it to do. To be clear with you, it does give us a cultural vocabulary for understanding Black movement, what restricted it, what it felt like at the time it was happening, how to take that in. But my class, Beyond the Romance of the Field, gives you the tool to take those questions and those songs and go talk to your great-grandmama or your grandpapa or your uncle and aunt. Clap it up. The next slide. Thank you. Now, I don't know if y'all noticed how I always say breathing, 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 because the breath is important. Oxygen, that's consciousness, right? But it's more than that. I don't like, and I don't mean this in a bad way. Well, let me rephrase I don't like. I am not a fan of the term and the idea of keeping the blues alive. I've mentioned this before. And it's ironic that I'm saying this, and I'm looking at 3 books that are close to my scholarship, right? Mojo Working by Dr. Katrina Hazard, Blues People by Leroy Jones, James Baldwin, Notes of a Native Son, and the New Jim Crow. They're right in my face. Oh, I'm sorry. And Black Magic. And that's just right in my vision as I'm talking to y'all. The reason why I'm not a fan of keeping the term keeping the blues alive, because you see blues people walking up and down the street. I know there's a group of people that you told us was something. I haven't seen none of those people. But you know who I have seen? The people that I came to find out were those real people. So I say that to say I use breathing and still breathing because we are alive and well. So we want to make sure we're still breathing. And if we're still breathing, the culture, the music is still breathing. And while we're breathing and while our culture and music is breathing, our friends, family, and neighbors and new community members also help it breathe, right? So that that you may not be a blues person, but as a blues music person, and when I say that, meaning you may not be melanated, you may not be what's considered Black American, but you're still keeping the blues breathing by playing it and talking about it, okay? So many Black families still practice a form of travel preparation inherited across generations. Keep the tank full from getting too low. All right. Share your locations. Call when you arrive. Know where you will stop and pay attention when an elder says a place does not feel safe. Hell, pay attention when a youngster says that. Okay. And let me be clear. Don't just pay attention when a Black person say it or a brown person. Pay attention when a white person tell you it's not safe. Okay, because ultimately at the end of the day, we hopefully we can make it safe for everyone, right? Don't ever pin that divisiveness on me, because that's not what's happening here, okay? Not every precaution proves a town's history, okay? But the tradition itself deserves study and interrogation. It tells us that mobility is not experienced equally. That is where the main point is. It is not experienced equally, okay? I want to invite the audience, y'all, into the Blues People Trail without making unsupported accusations. And I hope you understand that's not what's happening here. I back up every claim, and if I don't know it or if I'm not fully sure, or informed, or sure, I'll say sure. If I'm not fully sure, I'll let you know. I always invite participation to the conversation because this is the well. It is reciprocal, okay? Don't you ever forget this. Okay? So, with that, there's some questions that we ask. What travel knowledge did your family pass down? Were there roads, towns, counties, neighborhoods, or hours of the night that came with special instructions? Did musicians in your family know where they could stay after a performance? Did a church, lodge, business, or private home function as a safe spot? I already told you one of them. These memories are historical leads, folks. See, so we're not just talking to talk. We're giving you tools to go document your people.
Look in your own town.
Exactly. Exactly. They can be recorded, compared with other documents, and preserved and conserved with consent. The people's map is still breathing, y'all, because families continue to carry the knowledge that the official map never printed.
Education continues in the home, guys. The school can only teach so much or want to offer us, our children and us, so much.
That's right. All right, next slide. We're gonna get through this, jive turkeys. All right. So remembering sundown towns is not enough if remembrance becomes another industry that extracts Black stories. So we're not proposing another Black holiday here. Okay. We got to get the info on that and archive it. We got to get the info on that, bro. Preservation and conservation must ask who owns the archive, who defines the language, who receives payment, who controls access, and how the work benefits the community. Now, a lot of this I'm sharing on the airwaves with you. So imagine what you get when you take our courses, right? We should document threatened sites such as filling stations, bordering houses, clubs, churches, cemeteries, and family properties. You see what I'm saying? It all goes back to understanding how to document and archive your people's story, okay? We should record elders and musicians with ongoing consent. I always, as well as Mrs. Pearley, we drive home the idea of consent. That is the most important. We should support Black-owned institutions that continue to provide cultural and economic space. My man, Doug, what's going on, my brother? We love and miss you. We got to catch up. You heard me.
Doug.
All right, y'all? So we should connect historical interpretation to economic consequence. Let me repeat that. We should connect historical interpretation to economic consequence. Why? Because someone is making money off our story as it's being told incorrectly. This is why we're coming to put it in the proper context. This is why we're doing our best to offer these courses so you can put your people's story in the proper context. There's a brother, man, my man Guha. You know, he was masterful in doing that and how he went about doing that. I'm not going to tell y'all. You take the course and, you know, you'll find out. I'll just put it that way. If a community was denied land, dispossessed, redlined, displaced, or stripped of business wealth, commemoration alone cannot substitute repair. Okay? See, the goal is not to preserve and or conserve pain as spectacle. The goal is to preserve and conserve knowledge, honor agency, strengthen ownership, and return value to the people whose history made the work possible. This is why I keep telling y'all, take the course Beyond the Romance of the Field by someone who spent more time in the field interviewing than in the classroom. And I'm also in the classroom. Next slide, please. We're coming to a close soon, and I want to thank y'all who have stayed with us the entire. I want to thank y'all who came and left, and I want to thank y'all who are here now.
And come back to this.
Every Sunday.
To it one time. No, the recording.
Oh, yes. That's right. You know, that's right. That's right.
Like, share on your platforms. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. It says it right there. You know, these are a lot of conversations to, you know, foster in your own home.
So
your own people.
Right. So I'm happy you said that. Mm-hmm. Conversations to foster in your own home. We did the work. We began by fostering these conversations in our home. Do you know who Mildred D. Taylor is, y'all? Let me give you a couple of seconds to answer. Does anyone know who Mildred D. Taylor is? Okay. You can find her on Jack Dappa Blues radio.tv under literature. Mildred D. Taylor wrote I'm going to share it, my brother. She wrote a book series about her family back in the 50s and 60s, I believe. Now, it's not autobiographical. It's somewhat fictitious. And I say somewhat fictitious because she's created stories around their family experiences. Now, I got to break this down to you because it's very essential. It's essential to how I process and come up with my scholarship. It's essential to my lens because early on it helps define why I do what I do, because I realize you're not going to find a book about the blues by blues people. You're going to find a book about family history. That's the book about the blues that come from blues people. So Mildred D. Taylor writes these books about her and her family, her growing up in the era of segregation and going to school, and her grandpappy and pappy, how serious he was about all his kids keeping that one piece of land, all these things. Okay? So in our house, when we started homeschooling, 3 generations was in our home, and we would read this book together. This book conjured questions from the youth to my mother, their grandmother, and it also conjured memories from my grandmother of her and my uncles and aunts in their times in Mississippi and Chicago. So now our children are developing reading comprehensions, vocabulary, how to read, and are also finding out 3 generations of stories from them to their grandparents. This is what molded how we approach. So now when Mrs. Pearley says revisit this and deal with this in the home, I hope you see where I'm coming from, y'all. Mildred D. Taylor's book series, which to me kind of mirrors, I don't know if y'all ever saw the movie, what was it called? The Burringtons Go to Alabama? Mm-hmm. Huh? The Watsons Go to Birmingham. You know, it's stuff like this, or Down in the Delta. That's another film. There's books that these films come from. You read these books with your family, listen to these episodes that we produce. You have a homeschool curriculum. You want to understand more about that and how to go about that, reach out to me directly and we could discuss it. Let me stay on script for a minute. History, social studies, language arts, folklore, okay?
Music, if you incorporate that.
Right, absolutely. All right. So let me stay on track. But did you put Mildred D. Taylor? At least put her name in there in the book series. All right. So this work continues beyond tonight's broadcast, which is why Mrs. Pearley is encouraging y'all to put this in your favorite playlists and reference all of them. Because it's not just a whole bunch of interviews on Jack Dappa Blues radio and TV. We are really working to educate and help educate and be educated. Remember, it's reciprocal. This is how community and tribe works. So the Jack Dappa Blues Heritage Preservation Foundation creates public programming around Black traditional music, folklore, oral history, environmental memory, and community-centered documentation. The African-American folklorists, which is really the Black indigenous folklorists, but the African-American folklorists provide space for Black folk to contextualize our communities and cultural expression in our own terms. WBPR, We the Blues People Radio, carries these conversations through broadcasting, and we train y'all if you want to do radio features and things of that nature, so you can be featured and or aired on our station. Okay? Our workshops and courses help community members, students, researchers, and cultural workers document ethically and build archives with care. Black junk archiving. But I think that's a deep, I don't say deeper, uh, somewhat more complex idea. It's not complex in the idea of what we mean by black junk, but I believe it works better if you start with Beyond the Romance, then take blues people music and folklore, then take black junk archiving. If you take it in that order, I believe you will get the most out of our courses. Okay? Now this. I'm telling you what Mrs. Pearley been telling y'all all day, but I'm just going over this real quick. Okay? Visit our websites. All right, next slide, bud. Tonight, we begin with the question that the last 2 weeks left open. Right? What happens if the story don't sit well? And what history taught black people to read danger? The history of sundown towns shows us that fear was not born from imagination alone. That's gaslighting. We know something's there and they're telling us it's not, right? It was produced through law, custom, policing, violence, property exclusion, and repeated community practice.
History.
Right. Now, Black history is not only the history of the warning, it is the history of the welcome. Let's be clear. But understand something. We are speaking about specific topics tonight. So if you hear what I'm saying, you're like, but what about this? But what about that? But what about this? But what about that? We're speaking about something specific this evening, okay? Because it's the Green Book and the family call. It is the boarding house, the church basement, the filling station, the all-black town, the juke joint, and the musician telling the next musician which road to take. I talked about this for the last 2 weeks. Did y'all see Maria and what's the name of the show? S. Dot? The play.
That we saw.
Maria. Did y'all see Marie and Rosetta? It is a stage play. And by the way, Joe Turner, I like that play better with the actors we saw. Did y'all see or hear of the stage play Marie and Rosetta?
I don't know if they're still showing it or playing it.
No, I think it's traveling. I'm not sure. Okay. Now, all right, well, I'm going to go for it. Let y'all know what it is. If you have, just drop it in the feed. But the reason why I bring that up, because Rosetta and Marie are having a long interaction and conversation, kind of going through their experiences together, right? But what's telling is they're having this dialogue in a funeral home. Now, those who are not in the know, I don't want to give the story away. Okay, so let's just put it this way. Those who are not in the know think one thing. But those of us who are in the know understands that they had the dialogue and they had this play done in the funeral home because that's one of the many places Black traveling musicians had to sleep to be safe. So I bring that up because it coexists, and confirms what we are talking about this evening. Musicians telling the next musicians which road to take. It is the Threatt family turning Oklahoma land into refuge and enterprise. It is Rentiesville answering the command to disappear at sundown with a blues tradition that carried the people from dusk till dawn. So we close with 4 questions. We're closing here, and we're doing it with 4 questions. Who gets to travel without fear? Who has the right to remain? Who gets to own the places that generate value? And when black sound specifically fills the room, who profits after the music stops? All this comes to mind because of the 6 black deaths of the last 3 weeks. Multiple of them, but one specific of this young man found hanging at a music festival. So if you ask why I'm talking about this is not 100 years ago. A couple of weeks ago. So the signs may be gone, but the boundary may still be breathing. Our responsibility is to follow the records, listen to the elders, preserve and conserve the story, and protect the people. I'm Lamont Jack Pearley. This is Jack Dappa Blues. Baby, preserving the blues people, one voice, one story, and one truth at a time. We love y'all. Make sure y'all have an extraordinary week. Do something that matters to yourself. Then do something that matters to your people. That's it. I don't have nothing else to say. Thank you. We love you. Keep bluesing, keep breathing, keep documenting, and keep being the story.